Hey everyone, Tommy here with another exciting episode of Chef'dOvers. First of all, I want to say, I'm sorry it's been so long. It's been busy, it's been crazy, it's been a crazy year, I think we all can agree. But before we get started on our time here together, I wanted to tell you that we're out there on Facebook now, Instagram, and Twitter. And so please give us a follow to check out new videos and new creations. Also check out our website at barbequijote.com. So as you know, I always like to show the nice cornucopia of ingredients that we have here. And all these ingredients are going to come together and make a nice dish called lentils and chorizo. Spanish call it lentejas con chorizo. For our meats today, we have a wet chorizo, and I also have a dry chorizo up here. The same, but it's dried cured. We have some lamb, some ground pork, and we have some slab bacon. And those are always good foundational elements for this dish. For vegetables, we have some potatoes, and we of course have our lentil beans back here. And then for aromatics, we have Italian parsley, we have onion, we have garlic, we have carrot and celery for the making of a nice mirepoix. And for some little acidity and flavoring and color, we have some tomatoes. For spices, we have paprika, we have some fresh pepper, crushed red pepper, and some bay leaves. And all these together are going to make a fantastic dish when it's topped off with this nice Spanish wine. So for making this recipe, you can use water to soak the lentils or to let the lentils have the water stew in, but to really make it flavorful, I recommend a stock. And making a stock is not difficult at all. In fact, you'd be surprised what you can use to make a stock. And this one goes out to anybody who is a fan of any kind of rotisserie chicken. You can see there's nothing left over here but the bones and a little bit of meat stuck to it. But this is going to make a fantastic stock that's going to taste awesome in these lentils. What you do is you take these chicken bones that are left over, don't throw them away. You can use them, and you add them to a pot, the Dutch oven about halfway full, and you boil it and you let it go. Okay, to make this stock, as you guys know, I use a mirepoix in a lot of my recipes, and this is very important for this stock. Now, if you want to get some more information about mirepoix, check out my video on poutine, and I describe it in great detail. But it's basically a combination of aromatics that go into a stock or another type of dish, like a gravy or any kind of foundational part of a dish. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this really simple. And I'm just going to chop an onion. You're going to leave the skin on when you're making stock because you want that earthy flavor to be present in the stock itself. It gives it a nice richness. Make sure that you wash your vegetables first, but leave the skin on. Do the same with the carrot. You take the garlic, half of a cluster of garlic, and you'll take it and you'll just kind of chop it down the middle like this, just so that the bulbs kind of expose and show. You're going to leave the celery stalks alone. They're fine about this size. And just take your parsley as is. No need to do anything with it. You just wash it and put it with the rest of the mirepoix. And there you go. This is all going to go into that stock pot with the chicken bones. You can see it's starting to get hot and get some steam off of there. I'm going to just add my mirepoix mixture in here nice and slow. All right. Now I'm going to start adding some spices that I like to add to any stocks that I use. I use a little palmful of salt, and later on when you taste it you can add more, but just start with this much because you can always add more and you can never take away. So I'm just going to do the palmful of salt, and that's going to make the aromatics and the chicken and everything kind of sweat out their juices and their flavors together. Next thing I'm going to get is I'm going to get 2 bay leaves. Here's 1 and there's 2, and I'll go ahead and add a few little pieces more. A couple of grinds from my pepper grinder with a really open grind, so it's not crushed up too much. It's about like that, and it's a palmful. Just throw it in. Before we let it sit on its own, we're going to reduce the heat down to, on my stove, it's about a 3. It's in between low and medium, so about a medium low. And I'm going to put the lid on to keep the steam in. And that's it. You're just going to let this roll for 6 hours, and you're going to have an amazing stock that's going to taste incredible in those lentils. And the nice thing about it is if you're on a tight budget, you can buy a chicken one day and you can make another meal for you the next, and you haven't lost any money in the process. All right, now the stock has been going for about 6 hours at a very low rolling boil. So I want to show you guys what it looks like. I can tell you right now it smells fantastic. It smells very earthy, very herbaceous. And you come on over here, I can show you what it looks like. Oh, look at that. It looks amazing. You can see how it's become a darker yellow color. You can see how the vegetables have become very translucent. A lot of their juices have come out and going to give it its own natural flavor. It is going to taste absolutely amazing for these lentils. Now, one thing you might have noticed when I was making this soup, I didn't put a lot of salt in it because, again, I don't want to put so much in it, especially with my other ingredients coming up. We have the chorizo coming up that already has its salt in it, so I want to hold off. Okay, now what I've done is I've strained off the broth. I have removed all of the bones and the vegetables and the aromatics, and I put them aside. Now, if you were making chicken soup, you would have the broth ready to go for it. But we're not doing that, we're making lentils. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. So you can see we have our base vegetables that we use in the mirepoix. And I'm gonna show you how to take care of each one of them for this particular dish. We're gonna start with the carrot. And this is gonna call for about, 4 large carrots. I'm gonna cut the ends off real quick. Those aside. We're going to cut the carrot in half. Then we're going to cut it in half again lengthwise. The reason for that is you need to build a nice flat surface for you to cut against. Otherwise, the carrot's going to be rolling all over the place on you. Lay them down flat. And then you do a thick, not quite a julienne because they're not thin, but do a thick cut. Cut each of them into thirds. Line them up. Stack them. And start slicing to dice them. And I'm going to hit the celery. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Here we go with the celery. For the thick ones, I'm going to do them just like I did the carrots. I'm going to cut them into threes. And for the ones that are more thin, I'm going to cut them into two. And then we do the exact same way. We line them up and slice them and dice them. Now I'm going to show you just how to quickly cut an onion for this. It's going to be a rough chop, but basically it's really straightforward. You just take the ends, chop them off like this, flip it over, chop it off so it's flat on both ends. Set the peels aside. And then you're going to just slice right here. Make a small little slice for the outermost layer of the onion. And then just peel it off. And there you go. So now I'm going to take the onion and slice it in half. I chopped off 2 parts to give a nice flat surface. You lay it down on the flat surface like that, and you just slice it in half. Put 1/2 down, and then cut just like this, not all the way down, almost all the way down, but leave the back part of your knife up. The reason why is you want to leave an anchor of onion. Onion tends to be slippery when you're cutting it the other way. You need something to hold it in place, and I'll show you that in a second here. Get it nice strips across, then turn it on the side and do the same thing here. And notice how that part that we left alone is holding it all in place so it doesn't slip all over when we're cutting it. And that is the quickest way to rough chop an onion, and this extra part you can just kind of dice up on its own. So now the final thing that we have is garlic. And I'm going to show you how to do the garlic for Spanish stews. In Spain, the stews that use garlic do not use very finely diced garlic typically. They use a very rough, almost a sliced cut. And I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you real quick how to actually get the garlic out of its casing. And then I'll show you how to slice it. Very easy. You take your knife, you flatten it down against the garlic like this on its side, and just give it a good hit. It bursts it open, and then it makes it very, very easy for you to peel. Just peel the outer shell, and then you got yourself ready to go for slicing it Spanish style. And then you just take it and slice it lengthwise like this into thirds, and you do that for the entire cluster of garlic, and you're good to go. All right, well, now what we're going to do is we're going to add some slab bacon to our pan, and we're going to do that so we can render the fat out. That fat is going to be awesome flavor. It's going to be perfect lubricant for this dish, for the next ingredients to go in. And this is about 1 pound. I'm going to only use half of it. I'm going to put the other half away for another dish. And I'm dropping more chunks in there. And I got this on about 7, so that's about medium high. Let it get good and hot so that it'll start cooking right when you drop it in the pan. All right, so all I'm doing right now is I'm just turning the bacon so it doesn't burn. I'm just gonna keep turning them and let that fat slowly start coming out. And the nice thing about this bacon is it actually makes its own oil for the dish. So, or you might use, like a olive oil or canola oil or something like that in a dish. This bacon takes care of that for you, and it gives it a lot of flavor. So you can see the slab bacon is getting kind of crispy. We got some good fat rendering off it right now. And that's a good lubricant, as I said before, for me to start my mirepoix component. So I'm going to add the onions first. And keep those onions going. You want the onions to turn, translucent, maybe just a little bit, a tiny bit of brownness to them, but not overdone to where they get bitter. I'm going to add my carrots. And then I'm going to add my celery. And I've brought my heat down to about medium temperature. And the final thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add my fresh raw garlic. And I add that last because I don't want the garlic to burn, but I do want it to roast a little bit. Okay, I'm going to keep an eye on this. I'm going to let it sit and stew for just a couple minutes. Keep my eye on it, but I'll be back with you in a minute. Now that I got this mixing and going, and everything is starting to come together nicely and look a bit translucent, but not quite there yet. I'm now going to add one of the best flavoring agents to a Spanish stew that you can find anywhere, and this is Spanish dried cured chorizo. This is much more than just a meat. This is actually protein, of course, has a meat, but it's also a fat source, and it's also a flavoring agent. It has a lot of salt in it, and it has a lot of delicious paprika as well. So I'm going to add this in, and it's going to sweat out the oils, and it's going to sweat the salt out, and it's going to start intermingling with the mirepoix and the other ingredients, and it's going to make it taste fantastic. I'm going to add this right now. Okay, I've added my dry chorizo, and what's going to happen as I continue to mix this is you're going to start seeing red kind of ooze out of it, and it'll take a little bit, but that red ooze is what has all of that delicious fat and flavor and paprika. That's what makes it red, and it's going to just season everything up nicely. All right, so now I've cut up all the wet chorizo that was grilled with that smoke, and the lamb. I'm going to start by adding the lamb into the pot now. The lamb was cooked at a medium rare. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to add my wet chorizo, mix it up a little bit, and that's going to also provide more fat and flavor. And I'm going to go ahead and add my ground pork. Getting all the flavors integrated together. Quite a bit of meat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Spanish style lentils that I have pre-washed and measured out 3 cups. I'm going to put them in the pot here with everything else, and I'm actually going to stir them, and I'm going to let them soften up a little bit from all the juices that are in there right now. I'm just going to dump them right in, stir and mix them into everything else. It's smelling absolutely amazing. All the smells coming together. The paprika from the sausage and that gamey smell of the lamb that we all love if you like lamb with the garlic is absolutely incredible. We're going to add 8 cups of liquid. And we have our stock that we made. And it's about 2 cups shy. But that's okay, because we're going to make up with the difference with some red wine. Put our stock in there. Now that we have that kind of cooling things down, I'm going to crank up the heat to almost a high. And you can see now, you see the color that's coming through from that paprika? It's starting to turn things kind of orange and a little bit red. And that's just that beautiful, beautiful paprika spice that comes out of that chorizo. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some wine, some red wine in particular. You could use white wine as well. But whatever you do, I recommend that it is going to have a very crisp flavor and very, very low in tannins. So I would not recommend using something like, like a California Cabernet Sauvignon or, Merlot. What I really recommend is going with what the Spaniards go with, and that's a Tempranillo. All right, that is a very nice, crisp wine. It's used a lot in cooking. It's really bright and acidic and delicious, and I think it's going to go great with this particular dish. So I'm going to add 2 cups here to make up for the liquid difference. And you can see how the lentils are just covered with liquid. They're down there kind of low, and you got about about this depth before you start hitting the lentils, and that's about where you want to be with liquid. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some fresh parsley that I showed you the other day. This is probably about, I'm going to say a quarter of a cup fresh chopped. Go ahead and put it in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a series of spices, and I'll talk about each of them, but they're going to be really, really important for the overall flavor profile of this. Got some fresh black pepper. It's really good to use some uncracked fresh black pepper and use it on the setting that is the most coarse. Okay, because you don't want too much of the pepper oils to come out. And just do a quick couple of turns in the palm of your hand. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little bit of oregano, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the palm pinch method, and I'm just going to have one of those. Just whatever fits in that little section of your palm right in the middle is what you want to use. I'm going to throw that in there. I'm going to do half of that for this crushed red pepper because I don't want this to be overly spicy, but I want to have just a tiny, tiny hint of it. So I'm going to use half of one of those palm pinches. Now I'm going to recommend something that is going to sound kind of crazy, but pumpkin pie spice, and here's why. Pumpkin pie spice has the spice elements that are present in a lot of Spanish stews. A lot of Spanish stews that use morcilla, which is a blood sausage, but also carries a lot of these spices in it, and it tastes really good inside of the stew. It has cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, cloves, and those things taste really, really good in a nice stew like this. I'm gonna do the palm pinch. There we go. I'm gonna have to give a shout out to Leo, Natalia, and Marina. Those are my nephew and two nieces, and they gave me this for Christmas. This is a very special Hungarian paprika that I'm going to use on this dish right here, and I think it's going to taste fantastic. I'm going to go with 2 palm pinches here. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little taste in the broth, and I want to see if there are any other seasonings that need to be added. Got a lot of good flavor in there. I can taste every element. It tastes like it's coming together nicely. One thing I think it does need, actually, and it's okay now to add because we didn't overdo it, I think it does need a little bit of salt. So I'm going to do probably about another palm pinch. I'll mix it up, and then I'm going to taste it again and see what I think. All right, now that I've adjusted my seasoning, I'm going to let this boil up a little bit, and then I'm going to crank the heat down to medium-low again, and then I'm going to let it sit for about 45 minutes, and I think we'll be looking good. All right, everybody, we've been waiting for about 45 minutes, and I'd like to show everybody how everything is coming together very nicely, and then we're going to add our final elements of potatoes and tomatoes. It's all coming together nicely. You got a slow boil going on. You can see there's almost a gravy that's been created from the stock that we used and the red wine, and the lentils are coming together and tasting very good. They're about 75% done, I'd say, so they're a little bit al dente, and when they're at this stage, that is when you want to add your potatoes and the tomatoes. So I'm going to do that right now, and I'm actually going to only add half of these for now, and if I want to add more afterwards, I will. I just don't want to overdo the acidity in this dish. And I'm going to add the potatoes that we chopped up, and they will cook nicely, and they won't overcook because we're adding them late in the stage here. So they are going to get nice and steamed up, but not overdone. Go ahead and mix it up. We've just, in essence, reduced some heat by putting those cold potatoes in there and those cold tomatoes. I'm going to increase the heat just a little bit, but not too much. Keep an eye on it and stir. All right, well, it's been about a little bit over an hour, about an hour and 15 minutes, and I think it's done. I gave a taste to some of the lentils and checked the potatoes, and it's looking really good. Why don't you come on over and get a look at it, and then I'll plate it up. This was a long, fun day we had today, and it's all come together very nicely, and I'm looking forward to trying this. Thank you for spending time with me, and let's see how this tastes. That's good. It takes me back to Spain. Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us. And don't forget, please post comments, please subscribe, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and don't forget to check out our website at barbecuejote.com. Thanks again. I really appreciate you.